Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Mukhaṁ karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim Yatkripatamahang bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Shatarine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Namine. Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnanatayine Prabhave Namaha. Madhuryojjala Premadhya Shri Rupa Nuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostate. Namaste Gauravani Shri Mutai Dinatarine Upanuga Viruddhapa Siddhanta Dhantaharine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Wow. Nice crowd. Welcome. Thank you all for coming. I see familiar faces, some less familiar faces, and some unfamiliar faces. So we're here today. This is the second day of our two-day observance of the sesquicentennial, the fifth generation Californian, and we had our sesquicentennial statehood thing some years ago. What's it, in the 90s or something? I don't remember. 90, was it 99? 1849. So yeah, so that's a word we know here in California. 150th anniversary of the appearance of His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Prabhupada. He was born on February 6th, 1874. This last Thursday was the lunar anniversary, and I had the honor, I guess, and great pleasure of being able to address the devotees in Los Angeles that day. Some of what I'm going to share tonight, I also shared that night. So if you happen to have been there or have seen the video, God, please don't tell me you've seen the video if you have. I hope you'll actually appreciate that I'm repeating for emphasis. We could probably have a month-long festival with 6 talks a day and still just kind of like touch the edge of the glorious characteristics of His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Prabhupada. So we'll make a small effort. Whatever we have, as we'll see, as I'll discuss, is all 108%, 1,008%, bazillion 8%, the mercy of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati. So if I happen to say anything that makes any sense at all, it's like offering a lamp to the sun, or offering Ganga water to the Ganges. This is all, we are all, well, we'll say, we are all made of mercy. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura was born in 1874. He was the son, was it 8th son? Yeah, he was the 8th son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhagavati Devi. He was born in a family of Gaudiya Vaishnavas. He was born into a family of followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as we heard this morning, his father, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, had undertaken an effort to share with the entire world, actually, the glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his teachings, the teachings of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he had a burning desire for someone who would be able to help him carry out that work. He was praying, as he put it, for a ray of Vishnu, and he expressed the conviction that this son, born as Bimala Prasad Datta, was that ray of Vishnu, and that turned out to be the case. He was an able assistant to his father. Even in his youth, he learned editing from his father. He learned printing, all kinds of things. And when he was a little grown, his father suggested that he accept mantra diksha, that he accept initiation from Gaurakishore Das Babaji. Gaurakishore was a close associate of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, and he considered Bhaktivinoda Thakur to be his Shiksha Guru. Gaurakishore Das Babaji was a little unusual in his behavior. He was a little unorthodox, very humble, very devoted to Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, Sri Sri Radha Krishna, and not well educated. Sometimes we hear he was illiterate. I think he was functionally literate. He always carried a copy of a couple of Narottam Das Thakur's songs around with him. But his sole disciple, Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura, was very erudite. He went to university, but he dropped out of university because before he was able to complete his degree. Because even before he graduated, the university officials were pressing him to join the faculty after he graduated. And he was concerned that such a commitment would be too much, like a full-time job as a professor would just be too much engagement in the world for him. So he quit. Still, he wrote a treatise on astronomy called Surya Siddhanta. He was very expert in Sanskrit and Bengali, very expert in all the ancient scriptures of India, and utterly devoted to the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, especially as expressed by his father. I'll read a little bit about him and his father in a couple of minutes. He went on to found 64 mutts, or like monasteries and temples around India, and he sent a party of his disciples, a small party of his disciples, to England. And they spent a couple of years in England. They traveled to Germany as well, spoke with different kinds of people when they were in England and Germany. And but they didn't really establish anything with that left much of an impression. They did leave some disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's, that they had initiated with his permission on his behalf. One was a lady named Vinod Vani. Her legal name was Daisy Botel. We usually hear her as Miss Daisy Botel. She and her sister were ladies who remained unmarried their entire lives, and they were dedicated to keeping their home as like the Gaudiya mission in the West throughout their lives. One of my friends actually went to London and visited that place in the early 70s. They also did bring back a couple of Westerners with them. One was a German devotee, a German man who became a very dedicated devotee. But other than that, they didn't make much of a splash. We'll hear more about that in a few minutes as well. Then I'm not going to address that. I was thinking about the number of disciples that he made around India, but I've heard different figures and they vary kind of wildly so. But he actually established a very strong presence throughout India with Lord Chaitanya's teachings. As we'll see in something that I'll read in a couple of minutes, his approach was somewhat revolutionary. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also was quite revolutionary. He, although he grew up in a village in Bhaktivinoda Thakur grew up in a village in Bengal, he actually spent his youth in Kolkata among the intelligentsia, and the Tagores and so many other, among the literati especially, were his close associates. And he was exposed to Western modes of thinking, and he was, as far as we know, he was the first, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the first person to write about Bhakti Yoga, the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam in English. And he sent a little book poems glorifying Lord Chaitanya with an English introduction that was a rather extensive English biography of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and concise presentation of his teachings. He sent that in 1896 to several universities around the world and to several Western writers, including a couple of what we call the American Transcendentalists, Henry David Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson. So Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati he carried this legacy and expanded it, and therefore he was moved to send some of his students to the West. So I have a couple of things that I want to share. The first is something that I wrote about 25 years ago here in San Diego. It grew out of a presentation I gave at an Ishtagosti here at the temple, and the devotees liked it well enough that they gave me the tape, asked me to transcribe it. I'm a terrible typist, but I pulled it off, and to edit it into an article for the temple's Janmashtami souvenir magazine. And I think it was used for the magazine for 2, maybe 3 years. And then it's also in a probably slightly further edited form. It was published several places around the interwebs over a number of years. And the idea behind this piece was to present one aspect of my understanding of what made our spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, unique. He is a disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura. And it's he who, on the inspiration and instruction of Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Prabhupada, introduced Krishna consciousness to the West, coming in 1965, and actually spreading it all over the world in 12 years. So I call this Considering Srila Prabhupada's Mercy. About 500, you'll see the gist of this as I read it. About 500 years ago, Lord Krishna personally appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the place of the avatar for the age of Kali. Lord Chaitanya had two purposes for coming: to experience firsthand the bliss of serving Krishna, and to spread pure love for Krishna, which is very rare. Writing about Lord Chaitanya's plan for making his mercy widely available, Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami says, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Doya Karaha Vichar, Vichar Kurire Chitte Pabe Chamatkar. If you are indeed interested in logic and argument, kindly apply them to the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If you do so, you will find it to be strikingly wonderful. Chamatkar means amazing, mind-blowing. And I used this verse to frame the essay, because I end by suggesting, I end by tweaking it a little bit, by writing, Srila Prabhupada Daya Koraha Vichar, Vichar Kurile Chitte, Pabe Chamatkar. If you can, if you're really interested in logic and argument, if you apply them to the mercy of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, you will find it mind-blowing. Find it strikingly wonderful in Srila Prabhupada's translation. Actually, Lord Chaitanya revolutionized Vaishnavism. He took Krishna consciousness into the streets when he inaugurated the congregational chanting of Krishna's holy names and deputed bands of devotees to widely preach the glories of Sankirtan and pure devotional service. He himself traveled all over India preaching Krishna consciousness. He specifically deputed Lord Nityananda to preach in Bengal. Whereas Lord Chaitanya's direct followers came mostly from the higher social classes, Lord Nityananda made absolutely no distinction. He approached anyone and everyone, as demonstrated in his pastime with Jagai and Madhai, and implored them to take up devotional service to Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna. In the mid-19th century, Srila Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur saw that Lord Chaitanya's teachings had become distorted in several ways and had fallen into disrepute. He conceived a dynamic plan to spread the glories of devotional service to everyone around the world. Part of his program was a modern approach to presenting Krishna consciousness. He presented the philosophy of Srimad Bhagavatam in a way that even those who were influenced by modern Western philosophies, both in India and abroad, could appreciate it. Essential to Bhaktivinoda's revolutionary view was the understanding that Lord Chaitanya was not exaggerating when he said that his name would be sung in every town and village around the world. Bhaktivinoda wrote in his monthly journal, Sajjanatoshini, Srimad Mahaprabhu did not descend with his associates to deliver a certain number of human beings in the land of India, but rather his purpose was to deliver and uplift all living beings in all the countries of the world by practicing the eternal religion of the souls. He quoted a verse from Chaitanya Bhagavat in which the Lord predicted, "My name will be preached in all the countries and towns throughout the world." Bhaktivinoda Thakur then expressed his heart's desire. There are many kinds of religion in the world, and among all of them, the highest development of religion is the congregational chanting of the Supreme Lord's divine names. Of this there is no doubt. Alas, when will that day come when greatly fortunate souls in countries such as England, France, Russia, Prussia, and America will take up banners, kettle drums, mridangas, and kartals, and thus cause ecstatic waves of Harinam Kirtan and the singing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's holy name to rise in the streets of their towns and cities. Oh, when will that day come when pure and transcendental Vaishnava prema will be the only religion of all souls, and all tiny sectarian religions will meet in the unlimited and universal religion of Vaishnavism as rivers merge into the great ocean? Oh, when will that day come? Bhaktivinoda Thakur's plan for propagating Krishna consciousness also included reviving a scientific Daivi Varnashram system to help make society more conducive to spiritual culture. He passed this vision of preaching Krishna consciousness to his son and Shiksha disciple, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura, who extended Bhaktivinoda's revolution by taking concrete steps to reinstitute Varnashram Dharma. Asserting that Vaishnavas are as good as Brahmanas, Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati gave his disciples the sacred thread at initiation, regardless of their family lineage. He also introduced the ashram of Tridandi Sannyas, reintroduced the ashram of Tridandi Sannyas to Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Moreover, he created an organized institution for systematically propagating Krishna consciousness and trained his disciples to aggressively confront all forms of false religion. And then I make a transition to here to Srila Prabhupada's further extending Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's revolution. And I begin that by saying, throughout his preaching career, Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati exhorted everyone he met to help spread Krishna consciousness to the entire world. So many of us know the story of how Srila Prabhupada was, I wouldn't necessarily say dragged forcefully, but urgently nudged by one of his close friends to go and meet Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura, even though he wasn't particularly inclined to, because his father had been very liberal in his assessment of who was a saintly person, who was a sadhu. And he would pretty much invite anybody into his home who was dressed like a sadhu and feed them, accommodate whatever needs they had. And Srila Prabhupada, as a young man growing up in that household, he wasn't impressed with most of those people. And there was one story where there was one of the fellows that his father had invited, that he realized that this guy lived in the neighborhood, and he would see him in his apartment dressing up in his sadhu clothes, like cosplaying as a sadhu, and go out and beg, and then go back to his family in his apartment. So he wasn't particularly impressed with people just because they looked like sadhus. But this devotee insisted that Srila Prabhupada go and meet him, and there was some discussion. And when Srila Prabhupada went away, he went away with the very strong impression that Lord Chaitanya's movement was in the right hands, in the form of Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura. And as I mentioned here, whenever Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura would especially meet educated young men, he would exhort them to present Lord Chaitanya's teachings to intelligent people. And because our Srila Prabhupada was very fluent in English, both in speaking and writing, he exhorted him both at their first meeting and at the end of his time among us in this world to preach Krishna consciousness, to share the teachings of the Srimad Bhagavatam as presented by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to English-speaking people. There's There are a couple of instances that I want to share from a book that was compiled by my god sister and dear friend Mula Prakriti Devi Dasi. I had the honor and pleasure of editing this book, and we were working on it as Mula was lying in Vrindavan, preparing to die of cancer. When her doctors told her that they had done everything that they could and that there was no hope of her recovery, she told me about this personally. That she went home. She was staying with one of her kids, I think, who was living in North Carolina at the time. She went to the home and she said, "Okay, everybody pack up. We're going to Vrindavan." And in the meantime, those of us who knew about this book, we were working frantically to try to get it published before she drew her last breath. We didn't succeed, but we really tried. I mean, I would have to wake up at 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning to check my email at night, because I would get an email from my friend Manjari with a chapter or a section of a chapter, and I knew that she wanted it back ASAP, if you please. And so I would get up and check, and I would just get right to it. Fortunately, I was a college professor at the time, and this was the summer, so I didn't have any classes to worry about. So I was able to do that. I sometimes joke that my friend Manjari she was beating me to get these chapters back to her. So this book is called Our Srila Prabhupada, A Friend to All, and it's accounts of early contemporaries, as Mula puts it, devotees, some devotees and some just people who knew Srila Prabhupada before he left for America in 1965. And some of them are quite striking. And there were two instances that were related to her by one of his spiritual brothers, one of his god brothers, named Nayanananda Das Babaji, who I actually met on the Mayapur Parikram Marg when I was there in 1980. And he shares two things that I found particularly striking. So he told Mula, "I distinctly recall some very special occasions involving Abhaya Charanaravinda Prabhu and our Gurudev. The first occurred at the Sri Chaitanya Mat in Sri Dham, Mayapur. Our Gurudev used to pace along the balcony of his quarters upstairs. One day while I was visiting, he lived a little distance away in a village called Champahati. There was a temple there that he was helping to maintain. That was his home. That was his home village. Shri Radha Giridhari ki jai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki jai, Shri Gaur Nityananda ki jai. One day I was visiting there while he was pacing there, surrounded by a crowd of many top sannyasis and brahmacharis. Then I saw that Abhaya Charanaravinda Prabhu had come on a visit from Kolkata, and he was walking up the stairs. Somehow our Gurudev immediately noticed him coming, and as he was walking there by his doorway, he motioned for Prabhu to come near him. Prabhu approached him slowly and humbly, and Gurudev greeted him warmly and affectionately, and then opened his door and beckoned Prabhu to come inside alone with him. They remained inside for some time. All the other devotees were amazed that Gurudev showed his preference to a grihastha, a householder, family man, wearing white cloth, living outside the mat. Everyone was discussing this. So you can imagine the buzzing, the tongues wagging. Ooh, what's the deal, you know? Oh, doesn't he, you know? Anyway, it says everyone was discussing this. I especially noticed how beautiful and effulgent he was looking when he came out of Gurudev's room. And then the other instance, he says, The last year that our Guru Dev organized and performed Gauda Mandala Parikram, this is like a pilgrimage around all the different holy sites in the area where Lord Chaitanya had his early pastimes. So the last year that our Guru Dev organized and performed Gauda Mandala Parikram, thousands and thousands of pilgrims assembled at our Champahati Mandir. There was a whole village of tents in all directions. On the afternoon of the last day, one of our godbrothers had just arrived in Navadvip, having returned from London by boat. He had gone to preach, but had returned without meeting full success. In the evening, while Guru Maharaj was giving pravachan, giving a talk, he explained that it was his earnest desire that the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu be spread in the Western countries. He told how it was the vision of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur that this would happen. And it was also the last request of his mother, Srimati Bhagavati Devi, to him before she left this world. Now you can imagine this scene. He's a sannyasi, but he's a Bengali boy. And this is his Bengali mom. And she's making this deathbed request. And she's reminding him, this was your father's earnest desire, your guru's earnest desire, that Lord Chaitanya's teachings be spread all over the West. You've got to do this. Can you imagine how heavily that landed on him? Yes, there is no two ways about it, right? Consequently, he had been willing to take the lifeblood of the Gaudiya Math in funds to send devotees there to preach. But so far these attempts had been largely unsuccessful. So he took great expense to send this party, I think it was 3 or 4 devotees, to London and to maintain them during the 2 or 2.5 years they were in the West. Meanwhile, the devotees are going out collecting, and he's sending the money to these devotees in London. And so he did this, at great expense to the entire institution. And then Babaji says, at this moment in his talk, I noticed that something very mysterious was happening. Guru Maharaj was looking out at the large crowd of devotees, especially in the front, where all the sannyasis and brahmacharis in red cloth were. Then he turned his head and looked over to his left side where I was standing. He was looking intently at someone and became silent for a long moment. I happened to look behind me, and I clearly saw that the person with whom he was making eye contact was Abhayacharana Ravinda Prabhu. I thought that they were looking each other in a special way. Then Guru Maharaj again addressed the audience in front of him and said, but I have a prediction. However long in the future it may be, I predict that one of my disciples will cross the ocean, and that devotee will bring back the whole world. I remembered this incident, and Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj truly made it come to pass in exactly this way. I've also heard that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura, toward the end of his life, sometimes expressed the desire. He said, if I were to have 10 more years to live, I would like to spend them in America. And then the devotee who shared this with us was Srila Prabhupada's godbrother, B.R. Sridhar Maharaj, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. And he said, and so it seems that your spiritual master, our A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, that he has given our Guru Maharaj those 10 years and an extra 2. So I really I always liked that. And regarding Srila Prabhupada's own relationship with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Prabhupada, he didn't talk about him a lot. But when he did, it was always a momentous occasion. And I happened to be present for one of those occasions in Los Angeles in December of 1973. This was December 13th. And this was the disappearance festival for Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura. And Srila Prabhupada gave what became a very emotional address, and speaking about his spiritual master. And I noticed that he checked himself twice. He had the emotion was welling up in him, and he was starting to choke up, and his eyes were getting wet, and he tamped it down twice. And then at the very end, he just let it go. He couldn't control it. And so he was recounting how we have to be completely dependent on Krishna. He said, so that actually happened to my life. I was obliged to come to this movement, to take it up this very seriously. And I was dreaming that Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura was calling me, please come out with me. And then his voice broke. So sometimes I was horrified. Oh, what is this? I have to give up my family life? I have to take, Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura is calling me. I have to take sannyas. And this isn't the only time he said this. Srila Prabhupada said that on the occasion of Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Maharaj's disappearance in 1968, Srila Prabhupada was staying in Seattle. And when he got word that his godbrother, from whom he had accepted initiation into the sannyas order, had passed away, he called all the devotees. After the evening program was over, everyone is like getting ready to settle in for the night. And Srila Prabhupada called everyone to the temple room. And he spoke very passionately about this godbrother of his who had actually pressed him to follow that instruction of his spiritual master. And he had been called more than once in what you might think would be a dream, because it happened at night in bed. But and he said, this occasion, he said, I was a little horrified. And I remember hearing this recording of this talk at lunch at the Honolulu Temple in the summer of 1970. And you could hear in Srila Prabhupada's voice, he actually was a little horrified. And then after taking sannyas, he told one of my godbrothers once, after he had taken sannyas and realized what he had done, he said, oh, I was horrified. So this was a big deal. Srila Prabhupada had been married a long time. His family life wasn't entirely satisfactory, but still he was dedicated to doing the right thing. So he says, oh, I was horrified. I have to take sannyas, but I saw several times calling me. So anyway, it is by his grace that I was forced to give up my family life and this so-called business life. And he brought me some way or other in preaching his gospel. So this is a memorable day. What he desired, I am trying a little bit. And at this point, he's starting to lose his composure. I am trying little bit, and you are all helping me. And here he completely starts to lose it. So I have to thank you more and more. And he's just choking up. And he's struggling to get the words out. You are actually representative of my Guru Maharaj. And here, completely, the dam bursts. Tears are streaming down his eyes and his cheeks and shooting out of his eyes. And he's just choking up, struggling to get the words out. You are representative of my Guru Maharaj because you are helping me in executing the order of my Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much. And that was it. He was done. He couldn't. Now, I observed at that moment, and we all hit the deck, and in offering obeisance to him. And it seemed to me at the time that he had us all, had all our hearts in the palm of his hand, because what he feels for his spiritual master is so profound. And that if someone had run around with passing out tickets to Timbuktu and Outer Mongolia and Siberia or whatever, we would have just grabbed whatever we had and gotten in a van and gone to the airport with him. If he had done that right then, you know, everybody was like completely sold out at that moment. And then there's a little more that I wanted to share, and this is from a book put together by, where is it? By my godbrother and friend, Bhakti Swami, called Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava. Oh, here we go. And there are a couple of things that I would like to share from this book. One is there's a little section at the end called 24 Selected Quotations. So I thought I would share a couple of these, just to show the mood that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Prabhupada imparted to his students. So he wrote, service to Krishna and service to Krishna's devotees, and Sri Nam Kirtan, although different undertakings, are the same in essence. By Nam Sankirtan, service to Krishna and his devotees is performed. By Vaishnava Seva, serving the Vaishnavas, serving the devotees, Krishna Kirtan and Krishna Seva are performed. By Krishna Seva, Nam Sankirtan and Vaishnava Seva are performed. By reciting Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Seva and Nam Sankirtan are performed. By reciting Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of devotees, the same results are achieved. And by Archana, worshipping the deity, these three are also effected. And by Nam Bhajan, they are excellently performed. Okay, where's another one? Oh, I like this one. Simple-heartedness is synonymous with Vaishnavism. Simple-heartedness means freedom from duplicity. It's a wonderful quality. Servants of a Paramahamsa Vaishnava should be simple-hearted, a quality that makes them topmost brahmanas. Oh, then he said, more beneficial than directly serving the Lord is to serve devotees. The living entity is benefited more by associating with Vaishnavas than by associating with the Lord. And more favorable for pure devotional service than the Lord's abode is the abode of a devotee, the abode of Gurudev. And then the last of these is, Krishna Prema Rasa should be our desired end. We should be rasikas and bhavukas and never become devoid of rasa. The third verse of Srimad Bhagavatam is an exhortation to rasikas and bhavukas. Rasikas are people who are expert at tasting the flavors of devotion to Krishna, and bhavukas are people who've been made mad by this taste. And then there are a couple of, what do I have? 30 minus 23 is 7. I think I can do this. Well, maybe I'll just, there were two poems. There's a section called Poems Glorifying Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Prabhupada. And the ones I wanted to share, there was one, it's, I think it's 10 verses, written in Sanskrit by Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. But I think just because of time, I want to make sure that I end before the next thing. Since we have a theme going, Dravida Prabhu and I have this theme going, but we've been ending with poems the last couple of days. So I'm going to end with the poem written by our spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, on the occasion of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura's appearance in 1935. And many of us are familiar with this poem. And it's just, we like it. So I thought I would end with this. Adore, adore ye all the happy day, blessed than heaven, sweeter than May, when he appeared at Puri, the holy place, my Lord and Master, His Divine Grace. Oh, my Master, the evangelic angel, give us thy light, light up thy candle, a struggle for existence, a human race, the only hope, His Divine Grace. Misled we are all going astray, save us, Lord, our fervent pray. Wonder thy ways to turn our face, adore thy feet, your divine grace. Forgotten Krishna, we fallen souls, paying most heavy the illusion's toll. Darkness around, all untrace, the only hope, His Divine Grace. Message of service thou hast brought, a healthful life as Chaitanya wrought. Unknown to all, it's full of grace, that's your gift, your divine grace. Absolute as sentient thou hast proved, impersonal calamity thou hast moved. This gives us a life, anew and fresh. Worship thy feet, your divine grace. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati particularly liked that stanza. Had you not come, who had told the message of Krishna, forceful and bold, that's your right, you have the mace. Save me, a fallen, your divine grace. The line of service is, as drawn by you, is healthy and pleasing as like morning dew. The oldest of all, but in new dress, addressing that revolutionary strand of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura. Miracle done, your divine grace. So when I reflect on these different aspects of the glories of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Prabhupada, it's clear that everything we have is simply the mercy of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Prabhupada, and our own spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. I'm known for observing that I am made simply of mercy, and I'm always gratified to hear when some of my friends, some of my students will say, "I'm just made of mercy," and I'll think, "Okay, someone was paying attention." This is what we have here on Grand Avenue. This is the mercy of Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta and Srila Prabhupada A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So we're here just by their mercy, and it looks like we'll get to enjoy their mercy in a different form sometime soon. Thank you so much. Thank you for your attention. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Prabhupada ki jai, Gauda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
All right, so thank you very much, Ashram.